For 2 generations, Acura's RDX has been a safe and rational choice for compact SUV buyers. It's reliable, its resale value is pretty good, it's safe. But for this 3rd generation, Acura hopes that claims of best-in-class performance and technology, as well as a sharp new look, are going to make it a more emotional decision for buyers, give it a little sex appeal. Has it succeeded? Well, let's hop behind the wheel of this 2019 RDX A-spec to find out. So when it comes to sex appeal, the RDX makes a really good first impression with its exterior design. The new SUV is wider and longer than before. That frees up a lot of interior space, but it also creates the optical illusion of it being lower and sportier looking, despite the fact that the overall height hasn't changed for this generation. Now the design is preceded by a new precision concept inspired front end with what I believe is the largest Acura badge in the lineup. I could be wrong, but that's a pretty big A up there. Now it's taken some getting used to, but this design has really started to grow on me. I like the way this car looks. Now behind that large A badge, you're gonna find a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. It's got VTEC technology and it makes 273 horsepower and around 280 pound-feet of torque. It's gonna be mated with what I believe is the only 10-speed automatic transmission in this class, and they make a great pair. Now in the standard setting, it's a very quiet powertrain with really smooth acceleration, really smooth shifts. Put it in its sport mode, however, and man, that transmission is not shy about downshifting when you want to pass or tuck it into a corner. It really takes good advantage of the amount of power and torque that this engine makes. Now, in addition to the sport mode on the transmission, we've also got a couple of dynamic drive modes that we can choose from with this knob. We've got a snow setting, a comfort setting, there's a sport and a sport plus, and those are going to basically affect the weight of the steering, the throttle response, the engine sound, how the all-wheel drive system works, all of that with just this knob right here. Speaking of all-wheel drive, front-wheel drive is standard, but we've got Acura's optional super handling all-wheel drive system. It's able to shift up to 70% of available torque to the rear axle, and then once there, it can torque vector that torque up to 100% to either side to help scoot the SUV through corners. Now, normally I only really recommend all-wheel drive systems for areas that maybe get really bad snow or have a really bad rainy season, but super handling setup is actually a performance upgrade, and I highly recommend it for really sporty drivers who want to chuck this thing into corners. It's worth every penny of the $2,000 upgrade price. Now, also helping in the handling department is a new independent multi-link rear suspension. It's a 5-link setup, and it's going to help this SUV feel more planted in the corners, and it's mated with a new stiffer chassis that's going to give that suspension a better platform to work with. Now, I also highly recommend the Acura Watch driver aid technology, and it's a good thing because it's standard on all RDX models of this generation. So even if you don't check any boxes, you just get the base model, you're going to roll off of the lot with adaptive cruise control that works all the way down in stop and go traffic. You got lane keeping steering assist and forward collision warning with automatic braking. It's a pretty good setup. Now, with optional upgrades and other packages, you can also add blind spot monitoring or a surround view camera, but the base setup is actually pretty good. I also highly recommend this True Touch infotainment system we have here. I've gone into great detail in another video, so you can check that out for the full deep dive on it. But the long and short is that it's a 10-inch infotainment system with a touchpad down here that has 1-to-1 absolute positioning. So you don't have to move a cursor around. If you want to hit something in the upper right-hand corner, you just push in the upper right-hand corner and it takes you where you need to go. I also like its split screen setup, which adds a little bit of multitasking. One thing that I don't really like about this system, now that I've spent some time with it, is how slow it can be. Sometimes it takes upwards of a minute to boot up, and I also find that it takes a long time to just search for destinations. You're also going to spend a lot of time waiting for Android Auto to come to market. Even though it's a standard feature, Google and Acura are still working out the kinks of getting the software to work with the touchpad, so they're going to end up adding it as an update after launch. Fortunately, Apple CarPlay is standard and it works out of the box, so you just plug in and go with that. So has Acura nailed the emotional part of this equation? Is this a car that I really want to drive, not just one that I can rationalize? Well, yeah. It's a good looking car, it's really fun to drive, and the technology is at the very least headed in the right direction. But Acura hasn't forgotten about the rational side of the equation, and that's where the price comes in. The 2019 Acura RDX starts at around $38,000 with destination charges, but you definitely want all-wheel drive, so let's call it an even $40,000 to start. That's still a pretty good price when you consider the amount of standard driver aid technology, infotainment tech, and performance that you're going to get for that price point. I mean, even fully loaded, with the advanced package, all the bells and whistles, all-wheel drive, you're looking at a $50,000 price ceiling. That's like $10,000 less than a comparably equipped BMW X3 or Audi Q5. Would I rather be in the Audi? Well, heck yeah, I would. But I'm willing to bet that a lot of you would prefer to have a very comparable driving experience and keep $10,000 in your pocket. I know I would. And that's got me really excited about spending more time with the Acura RDX when it comes out and it hits dealerships in June of this year. So I mentioned that this look kind of had to grow on me, but I've really started to love it. But I want to know what you think. Is the RDX a good looking SUV? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're down there, be sure to hit the subscribe button for even more cool car videos from theroadshow.com, including that tech deep dive that we talked about earlier.